We are often told that if we have no plans or dreams, we'll never be able to reach them. I believe that to be true, but I've also learned to set a pretty flexible roadmap to those dreams, as your plan rarely rolls out as you've imagined. In the year 2000, after we realized that glitches with dates in our computers wouldn't spark the apocalypse, Dad and I decided we wanted a baby. Just one, so we could still live our dreams of exploring the world and working in the jobs that kept us close to the technology we enjoyed so much. After a year of medical issues, though, we started to doubt the dream of having a third person in our family. In 2002, we took an amazing and life-changing expat assignment together in Malaysia. We met with people with so much less material abundance and yet so much happiness. We shared our story of wanting a baby with Eddie, our taxi driver, and he took us to every Buddhist temple he knew and prayed for our family. No, we didn't become Buddhist, but we were overcome by the generosity of a complete stranger. You see, Eddie had very little, a tiny apartment where 6 people lived in one room, and yet he had everything because he was filled with love and the joy of family and friends. Eddie's become an icon in our life, and I'm sure you've heard us talk about him since. When we returned home, we scheduled a doctor's appointment, and with the help of medication, I got pregnant. A mere 6 weeks into the pregnancy, I had my first ultrasound, and there you were, one little baby. We were elated. Our dream was coming true. 6 weeks later, at a routine checkup, the doctor suggested we do another ultrasound as the baby's heartbeat was irregular. As I looked at the screen, the doctor said, "Well, how do you feel about twins?" In shock, I think I said, "I'm not sure, but this sounds like a rhetorical question." Later, Dad would say, "I feel like we just went from zone defense to man-to-man coverage." We rallied around the idea of 2 babies quickly, though, and we felt like we were the luckiest 2 people on earth. We found out you were a boy and a girl 8 weeks later, and the grandparents and aunts and uncles went crazy. You had a closet to rival any Hollywood star before you were even half-baked. 5 weeks later, though, we realized our plan was once again changing. After a busy work day, I headed to the doctor's office at 25 weeks gestation, only to learn that you would be born imminently. 4 days and lots of medications later, you were born into this world. Barely 26 weeks gestation and just over and under 2 pounds. For the first several days, we were given many warnings from doctors. At first, they didn't think Katie, the smaller and weaker twin, would make it through the first night. She did, and later we learned that their interpretation of weaker was based on how quiet she was, a trait that followed her entire life. About a week in, doctors were confident you would both live, but doubtful that it would be a life without major complications. We were told to expect brain bleeds in the next few days, which would result in cerebral palsy. We were told that portions of your stomach would need to be removed, and you might be blind. Dad and I dug deep. We prayed. We found friends who'd been through this journey before, and we vowed to do anything that might allow you to live out your purpose in this life. We went deeper and sought the meaning of happiness. We remembered those lessons from Eddie in Malaysia. You see, Malaysian people had very few material possessions. They lived in relative poverty, but they had family and they were so happy. And that became our goal. Whatever it took for our new family to find happiness. I let my boss know that I wouldn't return to work until my babies were home. You see, there was no job-protected leave then, so this was a huge risk. I may never go back to work. We both went to the hospital every day. We bathed you, held you, changed diapers, and made great friends with the staff. The NICU became our second home. At 3 months, 97 days, Katie was finally well enough to come home. With a heart monitor, and after nearly losing her vision and having an emergency eye surgery to reattach her retinas, she was finally home. We would later learn that when you raise twins, one twin's victory usually means there's a hardship on the other side, and this situation wouldn't be any different. Just as we were finally excited, ecstatic, and elated to have Katie home, Nick was undergoing 8 hours of surgery for a myriad of ailments. At 3 months, Nick, you still weren't able to swallow. Initially, the doctors believed your brain was damaged and you literally couldn't figure out how to swallow. This was a huge setback as it meant a lifetime of nursing care and confinement. Just as Katie came home, though, there was a breakthrough. They found a very tiny tube that connected your trachea and esophagus. It was a birth defect, but operable, and they didn't wait. You were transferred to UC Davis Medical Center, and the surgeon got to work right away. After surgery, we were torn with grief. Your whole body was swollen. You ached for every breath, and you couldn't eat. I wanted more than anything to lay in that bed and take your pain away. We sat with you for hours, praying and crying and waiting. A month later, you were breathing on your own again, but you still couldn't eat. Your liver was failing due to the IV nutrition you received for far too long. Another swallow study revealed that the surgery was not successful, and you would have to do it all again. I threw a bit of a tantrum, and we got you moved back to Mercy San Juan for the second surgery. The truth was, we all needed to be surrounded by our hospital family. At 4 months, you had a repeat surgery at Mercy San Juan. You were nurtured by doctors and nurses who felt like you were their own child, and you healed really well in this environment. 1 month later, you came home. You were able to swallow, but not easily. They sent you home with a feeding tube, which you pulled out nearly immediately. Dad and I stayed up around the clock to feed you the 10 cc's, or 1/3 of an ounce, that you were able to eat at a time until you were able to do it without much pain. Within a couple of weeks, you were eating and breathing normally again. Your liver started to repair itself. We would later learn that in one of the surgeries, your vocal fold had been paralyzed, but it still would have seemed minor when we had nearly lost so much more. We were finally all together, 156 days later. Family came to visit, and we had to be really careful about germs, but none of that mattered. Some part of our dreams might be coming true, and yet we still had no idea what to expect. For the next 3 years, we had therapists coming and going from our house constantly. We were told you both wouldn't run, jump, or have any balance. You both proved them wrong. It may have taken you longer, but you knocked out every milestone like it was no big deal. We quickly learned that experts don't really know either. I think God likes to remind us that only He has it all figured out. Just remember, as you go through life, doubt the experts a little, and remember that anything is possible. Simply never stop chasing your dreams, no matter what. Here we are, 18 years after that fateful Friday night of your birth. Not only are you not in a wheelchair, but you do jump, you run, you've played soccer and volleyball, hiked hundreds of miles with scouts, rode horses, made friends near and far across continents. You've loved deeply, and you've found happiness in your everyday life. And now you're off to college. It's simply a dream beyond what I could have possibly imagined 18 years ago. You're scholars, and you're going to change the world someday. If I can leave you with one thing, it's keep charting your path and find your happy. Listen to what others say and learn from their wisdom, but never let their advice stand in your way. You've already beat all of the odds. Go beat some more. and always know that we're all behind you every step of the way.